I'm your host, Micah Versman, and it's danger and excitement on today's episode of the Producer Podcast, as I sit down with stuntman Michael Walker to find out more about the world of stunts and how the producer can help run a safe and effective set while bringing amazing stunts to the project. So without further ado, let's get started.
Funny part, like when I first got into stunts, I was 18 years old and I got into acting and modeling, and I was literally picked off the streets by an agency because they said, "Hey, you've got to look. Come over here." Like, so I went over to the table and talked to them, and they were an agency local in Nashville, and they just said, "Hey, come by our studio, whatever, and try out for this." And so I did, and they said that there was like 20 other people there, and I was picked out of all the 20 people just because of the Russian accent I had and the Russian like villainous look. They said you would play a really good bad guy. I was like, okay, thanks, I guess. But then so I started doing like a lot of student films in Nashville. And lo and behold, I played bad guys, I played like the boss, I played henchmen, and in those roles, guess what? There's a lot of stunt balls and fight choreography that I actually had to learn on set, like no joke. And I found out actually, oh, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this. It's like it came so naturally to me because I took gymnastics when I was younger.
Okay.
And I loved it so much. And that's where I guess all that agility came from, so the ability to be able to fall and be okay. But so I started doing a lot of student films over there, and for the AI students of Nashville, and then worked my way up into like music videos. And I was actually on the show Nashville, if you ever heard of that show.
I feel like I have. I don't remember what it's about, though.
It's about a country singer who is trying to make it to become a big country singer in Nashville.
Okay.
So I was an extra on that, and I was in while I was doing all this, I didn't think I was going to become like doing any other stunts. Like it was not on my mind. And I thought I was just going to go straight into acting. That's because that's what I really wanted to do, because everyone was saying like, you have a good look to yourself, you should go into acting and modeling. And so that's the original plan of doing that. And so I did that for a couple years, did a couple more student films, and lo and behold, some more fight choreography and stunts. And yeah, I didn't think I was going to go into it. And then I took a break when it was about 2015, moved up to Johnson City and did my own thing up there, like sales and all that. And then moved back to my parents' house back in 2018, and I wanted to get back into acting and modeling. And so got back into the agency and did a couple of short films, and I did my two feature films before I got into my first Christian film.
Okay.
And the films that I did before were not Christian, like or faith-based films. And I didn't know there was a Christian film industry. I had no idea. And what really wanted me to get into that industry was I watched my first Christian film, which was Fireproof by the Kendrick brothers, and I fell in love with that movie. I love Kirk Cameron's acting in that. It was phenomenal. I said to myself, like, I really want to get into Christian filming and become a Christian actor, or do like camera work for Christian faith-based films. And so I started scouring the internet, seeing if there was such a thing like as a small group about that. And I didn't find anything at first did other films, not Christian based, but then there was this casting called CS Treehouse. I don't know if you've heard of them. Christopher and Heidi Stewart.
Yep.
I saw a casting call on their page, which I joined, and it was Iron by Crimson Rose Productions.
Okay.
And I saw that they needed some, I guess, bad guy soldiers or whatever, or like the enemy soldiers. I did see that they needed like original soldiers, and I saw like, oh, you need to know how to dance. I'm like, not me. I don't know how to dance. So I went straight to the being the enemy soldier called the Gouda, and I got the part. And Crimson Rose messaged me saying, hey, there's a part where you have to do a fighting scene. I was like, oh, wonderful. And I die in it. So I was like, oh, nothing new. Okay. So after that, still didn't think I was going to go into the stunts after the Iron stuff. I kind of was getting a little like, hey, that was actually really fun. I hope I can do this, something like that again. I went into like behind the scenes photography for film, and then wanted to get into camera work for the faith-based film. And I did a couple of those about for a year and a half. What really got me started into the stunts was we did another short with Crimson Rose Productions called Challenge. I don't know if you've heard of that one yet.
Yep.
So we did that in the Bear of I think February, and it was cold. It was so cold, and I wasn't the fight choreography on the stunt coordinator. I was first AC and focus pulling for Ryan Trenkamp, and I was working in camera. And there was a lot of fighting in that. You've seen that film, so you know what I'm talking about, where there's just mud and fighting and swords and all that. That is when I wanted to get into fight choreography and stunts. When I saw that, I was like, that reminds me of the day that I was in my first Christian film doing the fights on Iron, and I missed it so much. And after that film, I went straight into stunts and fight choreography. And so when I got home off of that set, I started looking online, seeing what kind of pads I could get, like what kind of stunt mats I could get. And I started buying every kind of sword I could get, every knife, like stunt knife and everything. My parents thought I was like crazy, thinking like, because almost every day there was a box of like of a knife or a sword or a mat. Like they said, what in the world are you doing, Michael? It's like, don't worry about it. It's all good. I'm just changing majors in the film industry. So, but they were very supportive. So I started like watching every YouTube video that I could get my hands on, every book to read and everything. And the most kind of, I guess, amazing thing about this is I didn't go to school for stunts at all.
Okay.
I didn't have the money. And so I pretty much self-taught myself on the stunt stuff, which is not the brightest thing to do, but I mean, but with the help of friends like Jonathan Wessel and a couple of other people, they were very helpful on like getting me pointed in the right direction where I could do it by myself. And then, so I learned how to do stunt falls. I learned how to do basic sword fighting, basic knife fighting. And then what I really, 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 really wanted to get myself, and also hand-to-hand combat. Well, the thing I really, really wanted to get myself up to was wire work. I love seeing people fly, and I really wanted to learn how to do the wire work. So so I did every YouTube video I could find about wire work, and every book, seeing like what can I get my hands on, like how to make this happen. I did my research on the internet, seeing the necessary equipment that I needed, and I found out that it was going to probably be about $50,000 to get the professional equipment. I was like, well, there's that dream that got busted. So I kind of stopped looking into wire work because I didn't think I was going to be able to do it because it was so much money. So I went back to like basic stunt bowling and hand-to-hand combat and fighting and all that. But then I guess 2 weeks later, I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. I literally am going to figure out how to do wire work because I really want to do it. So, and I found a way. I pretty much got your basic hunter's harness that you're like in a tree, hunting harness. Yep. And I made sure the specs were okay and strong enough to be able to be lifted up and everything. And then I got like climbing rope too, and pulleys and tree straps that strap around the limbs of the trees or stuff like that. And then one day I just went out and got a couple of my friends to help me do this, and it worked. It actually worked. And I did my first jerk pullback with the stunt harness or with the hunter's harness, and it really worked. I was very amazed, and I found out how to do my own wire work. And so from there, it just grew and grew, and I just kept putting videos out saying, hey, I can do wire work, beginning of wire work and all that, and stunt falls and car hits. And now I have my own company called Levitating Stunts, and people know me by that name, by Levitating Stunts. So that is pretty much my story right there. It's been a great ride ever since I started that. So
sounds like it. So I'd love to kind of jump into kind of the pre-production area of talk for a bit. And so one thing I'd love to hear your thoughts on, because obviously as a stunt person, you get the script, you're looking at specific things. But like for me as a producer, when I'm reading through a script, what should I be watching out for and keeping in mind when it comes to finding the stunts in the scripts and thinking through, what that's all going to entail from more the bigger picture logistics end?
Okay. So with that, so when trying to going through a script and going through all like, okay, here's a stunt, here's a stunt, here's a stunt, making sure that stunt is actually possible to do, knowing like, oh, that's a minor stunt I can do. We can maybe pull that off if with a stunt coordinator. Let's say that you have someone falling off a building. Mm-hmm. Would that be in your budget? Would that be like, because with that, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that one stunt. So,
right.
Making sure that you're able to put the stunts that you can do in your script that are doable. Thinking if it's too much, I should take that out and do something else, or find a stunt. Or if you really want that stunt in there, you will want to find a stunt coordinator that knows what he's doing. And I will say, for me, I am just a beginner still. I haven't thrown myself off a building yet, which is on my bucket list yet. But if someone came and asked me like, hey, could you have someone fall off a building, I would have to say, I'm not sure if I'm qualified yet to do that. Because with the stunts, it's all about safety. And with that kind of stunt, that's a big safety issue because there's so many things that could go wrong in that one stunt. So I would say would not be comfortable. I would like to learn how to do that, but I would find someone who knows that stunt like inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing, like when going through a script, also is like with each stunt, you want to make sure like that when you're trying to find a stunt coordinator, you want to make sure that they have all the qualifications of each of these stunts. Like if there's like a driving stunt, I'm not qualified to be a stunt driver because I don't have my any of that driving stuff. But you would want to find like Jonathan Wessel because he knows everything about stunt driving and he has that certificate and he has been trained on that.
Yeah.
So, but with like, let's say there's a simple wire pullback stunt. I could do that because I have done that before and I feel like I can do that. It just with depending on how big the wire pull is, you would have to get like cranes or winches or something like that. Just it depends on how big the pullback. But if it's just a simple pullback, boom, I'm your guy. I got you. Okay. But yeah, just when going through pre-production and trying to find the stunts that you want to do, you just want to make sure that you have the right people for those stunts, like driving stunts or wire stunts or anything, and just making sure that each stunt is safe to do within your story.
All right.
Then also another thing is making sure like you want to go to your actors too. Mm-hmm. And see if they would be comfortable doing that stunt. Because if they're not, then you're gonna have to find stunt doubles too.
So speaking of like, going through and finding the stunts and that, have you come across like, are there certain stunts that producers maybe don't always think that actually is a stunt?
Right. So I was actually on a film. And there was this stunt. They didn't think it was a stunt, but in my mind, it was actually because so many things could go wrong in this like little scene. Mm-hmm. So this guy was running, and he's running on pavement, and he's getting chased by cops. And so he keeps running and running and running, and then these two cars come out of nowhere and block him. And so he has to. He's running out in the street. And he has to stop. If he went too far, he was going to get hit by a car. So right there, you wouldn't think that would be a big deal. Like, oh, he can stop, but no, like you could get hit by a car. You need to be able to measure that and make sure, like, oh, I need to stop here because the car is going to be stopping here. So if you are involving a car with someone in front of a car, you need to have it is a stunt. It could go wrong. It could go badly wrong. So Yes, I have dealt with those kind of things.
For like the producer, they're always thinking the budget of the film. So I guess what advice do you have, or maybe like are there good places to go where producers can help more accurately budget what they might need for stunt work, whether that's renting pads or, if you're, all those types of things, so that, yeah, they actually have the budget to do it. And it's not like, well, can you do it for $100?
Yeah, there's a couple of websites out there that you can go to. You can even go to like, you could possibly go and call out to a stunt, like a stunt school, and say, hey, could you give me a general idea how much like this would cost to be doing this stunt, or like what would I need to do this stunt, like in a very safe manner. Because if you're looking into like, you're trying not to spend as much money because you're trying to be able to put it all in the budget. And I totally understand that. But depending on like how the stunt is, you want to make sure you do it safely, and it will cost money. It like, because you got to get quality mats. You can't just get your like your everyday bed. Sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't, depending on the stunt. And then also with that, like let's say like you're trying to do a car hit, okay, you're gonna have to have a medic on set, because like that could go wrong in so many ways too. Just in case, because that's gonna raise your budget up too. Reaching out to, like, if you know people who do stunts like in the industry, reach out to them. They could give you a hand on like knowing like, or getting you started with like the easiest ways to do that. And that's not going to cost much. Like if you had a film that you were working on and you had a stunt and you reached out to me, I would suggest like this, that wouldn't cost that much money. But that's probably the way to do it. Like either go to your local stunt school that's close by, ask them questions, or ask a friend that knows how to do stunts.
I want to kind of jump back to something you said earlier, which is, you're talking about, make sure when you are bringing a stunt person on that they have the right, qualifications to do what you're doing. So I guess kind of a two-part question. One, at what point in that pre-production process should you start trying to get that stunt person on? And then as a producer, what questions should you be asking, or, examples should you be asking them to send you to check out to kind of vet them and make sure they actually can do what you're wanting and they're not just, saying it and going to cause a safety hazard on set.
All right. So going to your first question, I'm going to use an example. Back in August of last year, my friend Joseph Morris, he reached out to me saying, hey, I have a passion project, and I know that you do stunts and fight choreography, and I was wondering if you would be interested in doing this with me. And I was like, yes, I would love to do this with you. And he was the first person actually who he reached out to me first, then before anyone else, because it was an action film. I will say, depending on the film, like if it's an action film, you definitely want to reach out to the stunt coordinator or fight choreographer as soon as possible. If it's like a drama and there's minimal stunts, then you don't have to reach out to them at first, like, because there's just other things instead of just fight. It depends on the film, I think, that to me. So he reached out to me and in August, and we met up and we went through the script, and he was pointing out every stunt, every fight, everything that he wanted in there. And I was like, okay, we can do that. Okay, that's gonna be too hard. I don't have qualifications for that. Yes, I've never done that, but I will do the stunt first just to make sure it's safe, and so on. So we had a sit down meeting, went through that, and then 2 weeks later, we started stunt rehearsal and fight choreography. And we did that for 7 months. Just going twice a week. Stunt rehearsal, fight rehearsal. And it's very important to, get those moves down, like I said, because you have other people that you're fighting and they, as well as you do, And so it's very important just to be able to get them comfortable with those fights. So, but I know that's deviating from the first question, but as soon as possible, if it's an action film or if it's a heavy stunt within that film.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, when me and him met up, there was a specific stunt that he wanted to do, and it was a bottle hit. And he said, "How would we do this?" I said, "You're gonna need sugar glass bottles. You can get them offline. Six of those for like $70." He said, "Okay, we'll get that." There's a kitchen fight I want to do where it has a knife. What kind of knife should I get? Like, should I get should I get like a blunted knife? Like, no, what you want to get is a stunt knife that looks like a real knife, but it's a plastic knife. So we were going through the whole script and picking through every stunt and like what kind of falls that when he wanted, like, so there was a pad there, we need a pad there, back pad. There was a table hit where we needed to protect the table and the guy's head when he hits the table. So those are the kind of questions that you want to ask the stunt coordinator, like, is this stunt possible? What about this? What kind of if we can do this stunt, what would we need for that stunt? For that stunt, like a bottle or something like that, you know. So you just want to make sure you go through that whole script with every stunt that you see and go and ask like all those kind of questions. So.
And this is something I'm guilty of. You know, lots of beginning filmmakers are doing stuff on a no budget scale, you know, as they're getting started. And, you know, everybody does it different in terms of if they have any stunts and if so, what they are and all that. So I guess what would your advice be to like beginning filmmakers of like, at this point, if you're trying to do these things, you really should be having somebody more officially there to do stunts as opposed to, you know, just the director, you know, trying to do it with the actors and all that, you know?
So the number one rule about stunts, if you're a beginner in film and like you have never done any stunts or anything, don't attempt it. If I know it's your first film and I get that you want it to be a big film and all that, but and it has stunts in it, it has fights, and you're saying, you know what, I just can't pay for someone, so I think I got this. I can just go through it. That is the easiest way to cause an accident. Let me tell you, I have so many friends who have done that, and it just is not a pretty sight. So for first filmmakers, I would start small. Maybe not put a stunt in there. I mean, if you have to, try with just a fall. Look up how to do a fall, like a simple back fall or like a side fall. Make sure you have some kind of pad underneath you, but don't try to overdo it with the stunts with your first film. There's something I remember. One of the Kendrick brothers said this. I think like start small, work up big. If you start small, you'll learn and learn and learn. I don't remember what they said. It was a couple years ago, but I really like how they said it. But just start small. Don't try to go big at first. Like right now, I'm working on a film right now, and it's not that big. It's a Nerf gun war with two couples that just got married, and they're both stunt coordinators. And I don't know how this film is going to turn out. You know, it's my first film that I'm trying to write and direct. So
yeah,
I'm starting small. I'm not going to try to go big. So, but like I said, start small, see where that goes, and then work your way up.
That's good advice, because yeah, I've you know made some of those mistakes, and surprisingly, the few I made with stunts, I always found it was the people that you thought weren't gonna be the issue that were.
I will say I've had so many mishaps on sets. Like this last set where we had to do where I was playing a henchman and I had to get stabbed in the stomach with a knife, with a retractable knife, and I had to go bend over forward, and then the guy had to put his knee up and hit me in the face. I overcompensated on that, and I went down too low, and he just whammed my nose into my face, and I went backwards. I went off my feet, and the guy was like, "Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I did not." I was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Dude, I'm fine. Just give me a minute." And that's another thing I will say. Like what I've learned is like, um, when you accidentally hit someone, don't rush them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't go and say, "Are you okay?" and put your hand on them. That's the last thing that they want. Okay, I know that you're just trying to help them and say, "Hey, I'm so sorry," but give them like at least maybe a minute so they can like, because they're thinking like after they get hit, like all this emotion and like this pain is right in their head, and they don't want it, and that's the most dangerous time to like saying, "Are you okay?" Like some people are okay with that. Like, "Are you okay?" It's like, it's fine. I'm okay with that because I know they're just trying to help, and I know the risks. So the most important thing I think is just give the guy a minute before you say, "Are you okay?" Like, just back off, give him some room to breathe, let him just fume off a little bit, and then when he's say, "Okay, I'm okay," and then see if everything's okay. So I've learned that on set, and I will say, like, if you come at me and I just need maybe 10 seconds, because I don't like being touched like after that, because all this emotion, because the guy put his hands on my face. I'm like, "Dude, you are doing this so wrong. Like, you're so lucky I have, like, I'm not, don't get angry or that." But if you did that to someone else, ooh, that's your own funeral, man. But I will, that's some good advice right there that I've learned over the years too. So.
All right. So, my next question is: once you're through the pre-production phase, you're into the production phase. How can a producer best help the stunt coordinator during production? Make sure they have the resources they need, whatever it may be, so that the stunts can go off smoothly without a hitch.
I will say this is more like in kind of pre-production, but to make it easier for the producer on filming day and all that is rehearse. I cannot express it enough. Just rehearse. Like, for this film that I just did, we rehearsed for 7 months. Mm-hmm. And it made that job a whole lot easier for the producer, because we didn't have to. You didn't have to get on set and like, we gotta go through these moves now because we don't know what we're doing, and that's just a headache. That's a very big headache for the producer, because it's gonna take twice as long, and and people are gonna get hurt easier on that. So I will say, just rehearse as much as you can before filming day to make it that much easier. And then on filming day, go through this, like, do a couple more rehearsals, making sure that with camera, what is it called?
Camera rehearsal?
Camera rehearsal, thank you. Make sure that the producer is watching the camera rehearsal, make sure the stunt goes smoothly. And if he says, "Yeah, that's what I like, let's roll it," that's gonna be a lot easier for him on that day too. So, but like I said, to make it as simple as possible, rehearse as much as you can before you start filming. That's the key thing about stunts right there.
Mm-hmm. So how then do you kind of gauge like how early you need to start that rehearsing?
So if it's a simple fight, then you don't have to have as much of a early start, but like you still want to have maybe a couple weeks. It depends on how many stunts there are in the film, because the more stunts, the more time you're gonna have to rehearse. Like I said, with this film, there was so much going on. There was a huge house fight. Then there was a huge warehouse fight, and with those two fights, 7 months. And we are so lucky that we had those 7 months to rehearse because it wouldn't have looked as nearly as good. My friend Joseph Morris, he filmed another a film called Agent in Red. And I wasn't on that one. I didn't know about it until he brought me on to Agent in Gray or Gray and whatever it's called. I can't remember. And on Agent in Red, Brothers in Gray, that's what it's called. Agent in Red, they literally started that afternoon and they rehearsed the fight through the night and filmed the same night. Yeah, I was like, oof, man. Oof, okay. Hey, I'm glad you like did it, but that's oof. I bet there were some people that were ready to go home after that. Not a good idea when you're doing a stunt like that with fights. Definitely don't do that on the same day as filming. If it's a big action movie, you want at least 6 to 8 months for rehearsal. If it's a feature film, let me say if it's an action feature film, 6 to 8 months. If it's a short film, which this was a short film, but there was so much fighting in it, I wanted to get as much rehearsal as I could, and I will say we pushed the film back, kept pushing it back, but which I was grateful for. I was very grateful for. And also depending on your actors too. That's another thing. Are your actors trained in the fights? Do they have any kind of fighting martial arts in them, or have they ever done any stunts or anything? It depends on that too. And rehearsing on stunt falls and car hits and wire work too. If they have never done wire work, you want to have them rehearse that too, because I'm going to tell. I've heard so many people like, oh, it's gonna be so much fun to do wire work. I cannot wait. And then they get in there and they said, I hate it. I hate this because it feels, I hurt all over. I was like, dude, stunts and wire work are not meant to be comfortable, man. It is not meant to be comfortable, okay? This is a hurting game, okay? And they said, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this. So there was a stunt. It really wasn't a stunt, but it was a safety thing for me. On this last set, there was a running scene where Joseph Morris had to track him in front of him running towards the cars, and he couldn't run backwards because he was full sprinting. So we put him in the back of my car in the trunk, and I put him in my stunt harness, and oh man, he hated it. He hated it. I was like, dude, this is what it's supposed to feel like, man. You have to have it tight all over, okay? I'm sorry, but if it's loose, then it's not how it's supposed to be. It's like, dude, I hate this. It's like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not meant to be comfy at all. But I will say that's what you want to do for that. So all right. Just make sure that they know what they're doing and gauge the what kind of film, how long the film is, and how many stunts there are. Like depending on how many stunts there are, this is how long you want them and how comfortable they feel like they need. So
I have a few kind of final wrap-up questions for you. And the first one, you've kind of touched on this throughout, but I thought I'd ask it anyway. But are there any common either mistakes or maybe misconceptions you see producers having when it comes to doing stunts in their project or working with stunt people?
I guess what I could say, I have seen a couple of producers saying, this is not gonna be a big deal. This is not a big stunt. I think I got this, and they bring in someone who's not trained in the stunts. And that's the way you're gonna hurt someone. with stunts, the number one rule with stunts is safety. Safety is the biggest thing. It's actually, I like to actually say that stunts is the most dangerous thing on a film set. I've had people say like, no, lighting is actually the dangerous thing. I was like, if that's true, if there's no stunts in it. Lighting department is the most dangerous thing if there's no stunts. But if stunts are on there, everything else is just peas and carrots to stunts. Okay, because you could die in stunts, break a bone or anything, So you really, really, really need to. The producer really needs to gauge on all that. Safety, the actors, do they feel comfortable? Does the actors feel comfortable? Does he need to get stunt doubles? Making sure the stunt coordinator knows what he's doing and all that. So that right there is what needs to happen for that.
And then my final question, and this answer, it could be specific to stunts, but it doesn't have to be. But what's like, from your experience on set for productions, what's one piece of advice you would give to a producer about, running a good set?
To being a producer, just making sure, like, I would think, like, because there's so much going on a film set, like this, like, you don't have time to stop and like look at each one. Okay. But to help that, I would get the whole crew together and just have a crew meeting, and making sure that the producer knows everyone what they need to do. So because if you're on set and if the producer's on set and he's doing all this, he doesn't have time to go over to the lighting and say, hey, I need you to do this, or to camera, oh, I need you to do this, or actors, I need you to do this. Make sure that to be a better producer, make sure you know everyone's position and like and make sure that they know what you're looking for, and it's just going to help everyone also in the whole film set too, like, because I have never been in a producer's shoes, and I can only imagine the stress level of a producer, like how high that could be, because there's so much going on. But just make sure that he knows everyone. He has that meeting. He gets to know everyone on that set before filming. It's just going to make it a lot easier. And making sure you have a great AD. I would say having a great AD is going to help so much for that producer, because the AD is going to help the director and make sure everyone else is safe. So it's going to take it will take a lot off your shoulders for the producer too, for that, if you have a great AD like Verlaine. Oh, God bless Verlaine. Because she was on this set, and she did a fantastic job going through the stunts. She was fantastic. So,
alrighty. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. But thank you, Michael, for coming on and talking today.
Thank you for having me. I hope I've given you a lot to think about, and it made sense and all that. So that you can take this knowledge to your next film, when you have stunts in your film.
Until next time, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast, and thanks for listening.